the women of our country. They said, sir, I just think it's inappropriate for you to say, pay these guys a lot of money. Can you believe it? I said, well, I'm going to do it whether the women like it or not. I'm going to protect them.
Former President Donald Trump responding to Republican concerns that his rhetoric could turn away support from women voters. Both candidates are currently on a battleground blitz in Nevada and Arizona today while on her way to Phoenix. Vice President Kamala Harris emphasizing how her opponents supported the reversal of Roe v. Wade, which restricted a woman's right to abortion.
It actually is, I think, very offensive to women in terms of not understanding their agency, their authority, their right, and their ability to make decisions about their own lives, including their own bodies.
Heading into the final weekend, the vice president insists she's the underdog in this election, which of course is 5 days out. Well, do those ever so close polls tell us the true story anymore? Do they have any credibility? Just one big question in this tight race.
Yes, and so joining us live to break down the next few days is the Dean of Graduate Education from Louisville Spalding University, Dr. Kurt Jefferson. Dr. Jefferson, thanks for being here again. I'll let you answer that first question Doug just posed to you about the polls.
Well, you know, I think we've got lots of polls, and when you look at the polls, it's Trump, Harris, Trump, Harris, Trump, Harris. So
right.
We're riding, according to The Economist today, we're riding right down the middle at 50-50.
Okay.
You believe him?
I do. I think the bigger issue will be which swing states are going to play the bigger role. And what we found today, and I'll cite the British publication, The Economist, that basically said Pennsylvania, which is +2 for Trump, North Carolina +2 for Harris. At this very moment, it looks like 33% chance that Pennsylvania tips the presidency to one of the two, or 13% chance that North Carolina will be the tipping point state.
Wow. Okay, so anytime we have a presidential election, of course, the voters come out. Here in Kentucky, we've got Amendment 2, which is bringing a lot of voters out. We started early voting today. Were you surprised? We had a video just a little while ago of long lines for the early voting.
Yeah, I think a little bit surprised, of course, just thinking about how voting was done traditionally coming out of COVID in 2020. That may explain that. But, you know, when you think about 66% nationwide, in the last election, we haven't had back-to-back 65% turnouts in American presidential elections since 1900 and 1904.
I want to go back to what you just said. Fascinating. We're talking about the swing states, but is it your belief that one state, the state of Pennsylvania, depending on where it goes, determines the election?
Well, I think what pollsters are saying is there's probably a 1 out of 3 chance that one state can tip the balance. It probably isn't one state that will do that, but for certain, Florida and Ohio are probably now on the back burner, given we have Vance and Trump in Trump's adopted state. But I do think states like Nevada and Arizona are going to play a much bigger role. But I do agree with The Economist. I think Pennsylvania and North Carolina will be salient, given what we're seeing at this very hour with the early voting returns and that kind of thing.
So there's a group of undecided voters. We're a few days out from the election. Are there still undecided voters, do you really think? And if so, who are these people?
Well, I think there are two things I've been thinking about coming into this evening with you all. I think there's two things. First, you've got 52% of the voters saying that they're not better off than they were 4 years ago. That's going to play in Trump's favor. On the other hand, you have the likability factor. The polls showing folks like Vice President Harris better. So both of those will split two different ways, but there are still 12% voters that claim to be independents. They will play a major difference in this role, in this vote.
So you believe that there could be a new influence of votes because the belief has always been that Donald Trump has his loyal base, pretty much that also for on the Democratic side. Where are these extra votes coming from?
Yeah, and that's a good point, Doug. I do think we've got 88% of the voters saying, hey, we already know who we're voting for. The question is, and it's always been this way for the last 20 years, is, you know, will somebody pull up to the voting booth and not know who they're going to vote for until the minute they pull the lever? The reality is that's probably not the case, but that 12%, both candidates are going to fight like cats and dogs to get them to make sure they're pulling the lever for the Dems or the Repubs.
do these last minute ads that we're seeing, I mean, a lot of money is being spent. Will they affect that 12%?
Oh, 100%.
Okay.
And this is something that a lot of Americans don't want to hear, but negative advertising does actually work, and it will be effective for those 12%.
Do we know who the president is by 11 o'clock Tuesday night, or do we know Wednesday, Thursday, Friday? You get my point.
Yeah.
Here.
I would rather put my money on a long shot in the Kentucky Derby than trying to answer that question. But I will say, I don't think we're going to know by midnight on election night, but I could be wrong.
You think Wednesday?
Good question.
Right,
I would hope within 48 hours.
Remind us not to go to the Derby with you. Thank you. Kurt Jefferson from Spalding. We appreciate it.
Thank you.